Flag salute, please. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening. Open the Bourbon County Commission meeting, September 30th. Looks like we have a full agenda. Approval consent agenda, please.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda, which is approval of minutes, approval of payroll, and approval of accounts payable.
I'll second it.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
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 Okay. T.J. Denning, Kansas Renewal Institute, question regarding the building. You have the podium, sir.
You're up, TJ.
And make sure that red button's on, would you please, for people can hear you? Thank you.
All right.
How are you, sir?
Good. How are you?
Thank you. Good.
Basically, I just wanted to come tonight to answer any questions you guys have for KRI. Also tell you the position that we're in right now with trying to get your ER open and like some of the concerns that are being brought to my attention and then how I'm going to fix that. The biggest concerns is the equipment. We still don't have an update on the equipment that was donated to you guys as the county. There's a list of things that aren't there. And there's a list of things that have to be fixed in order for Freeman to come here. We don't have any answers. Back in July,
I've discussed that with Freeman already.
they've reached out to me multiple times.
I've talked to them this morning.
Okay.
Yeah, we think we have a lot of things resolved this morning.
Okay.
We just can't talk public just yet. That's
Okay.
what the county counselor told me.
If you did do that this morning, that's great, but also I need to be in the loop with that. If I'm pulling the license and I'm also trying to manage everything that's going on
Absolutely,
for that to happen.
Yeah.
Because it is concerning, because I've already signed contracts for service agreements and things like that to make this happen, basically at the will of everybody else. And so I was concerned I need answers.
Sure.
Also, I don't know where we are with the building purchase. As far as KRI, we are in the process of negotiating that. We're ready to take ownership of the building through Legacy, but we haven't heard anything back. I know you guys did the tax deal and that was all worked out, but where I'm at is I need some answers. I need to be able to carry on with our business and to make things happen. We've invested a ton of money into that facility, and we are constantly going through CMS inspections and things like that, along with the fire marshal inspection with a building that isn't in our name yet.
Okay. Possibly that one of us can have some discussions with Legacy and go forward and get you some information.
Okay, that'd be great.
Be glad to help.
What can I do for the county to help? Because, I've came here, tried to build partnerships and be open book to everyone here. I know everybody's skeptical of that. I am local to Nevada, so I'm very passionate about rural communities and helping communities out. People can understand that or not, but that's who I am. I've also got a ton of employees that we brought in I'm very passionate about their success. I just need to have this information so I can make sure that we're established and we're here for a long time.
Okay. We will work hard to get you the information that you need, and I want to thank you personally as a citizen and as commissioner for what you've done for us here in Bourbon County.
Thank you, sir.
Clinton, questions? Brandon, questions?
I mean, I don't, how soon can we get him the information? Because that's what's holding the whole deal up right now is him.
I'll make a
knowing.
motion that one of us talks to Legacy. That'd be this guy here. He's in touch with them a lot. I don't know if we need to amend the agenda to do that, or we just, we'll appoint Clifton to talk to them right away and get you some information. If that's all right, Mr. Beth, Commissioner Beth.
By the end of the week, I have to have my drawings, the drawings between Freeman and myself, stamped and signed and sent in to CMS. So we really need an answer before the end of the week.
Okay.
In order not to delay it.
I don't have a problem reaching out to them, but they are a private company, but I don't have a problem reaching out to them.
We'll certainly try. Help you out 100%.
Yep.
Get you the information that you need. We want you to be very happy out there as far as successful. So,
Yep.
and you're on your route. You're doing well.
All right. You guys have any questions for KRI or
I
anything
don't.
that we're doing?
It's good to see you. Come back sometime.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
$5:45. We have 10 minutes to kill.
We,
Mike Dolan.
Samuel Tran be longer
Yeah.
than 10 minutes, so we can change the agenda.
Yeah, Sam,
Sir?
will you be longer than 10 minutes? We have 10 minutes to kill here.
No, I would not be long.
Okay, can you amend the
So I'd
agenda?
make a motion to amend the agenda to move Mr. Tran before this 5:45 PVD compliance conference call.
I'll second it.
A motion is second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Trent, you have the floor, sir.
Thanks, sir. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
I will try to make this as quick as possible. So about a month ago, I stood before you and explained my concerns about pending industrial solar ventures that are postured to take place here in the next few years. As you are well aware, as a member of the Bourbon County Industrial Committee, I voted no to the setback in regards to location of solar arrays. I did so because I believe the vote was premature. Our research was incomplete, and we needed additional information in order to make an objective decision. So let's be clear. I am for setbacks, just not the 50-foot recommended by to the commissioners. Today, I would like to state that the 50-foot setback is much too close, especially pertaining to residents, outbuildings, and any buildings that store flammable agricultural products. In my research of battery energy storage system, BESS, I noticed that BESS catch fire, the responding fire department evacuate residents within 1/4 mile distance from the fire due to the hazardous gas and potential toxins. Sometimes the distance are elevated up to 1/2 mile. During these BESS fires, protection of life becomes paramount, followed by mitigation and safeguard of surrounding structures, but there are other areas of concern to contend with. Those would be the introduction of water contamination from the fire extinguishing process into our streams, rivers, ponds, and watersheds. Therefore, it is my recommendation to the Commission to implement a 1,500-foot or 500-yard setback from all residential sites, outbuildings, streams, river, ponds, and watersheds. Until the solar companies can present a comprehensive plan to mitigate fire and prevent contaminated water from entering our water systems, I believe this is the most prudent course of action. And part of that, sir, is based upon a conversation I had whereby a Doral employee said the best way to mitigate a BESS fire was to just let it burn out. I don't believe that's a prudent thing to do, is to let it just burn out. I think we need to mitigate that. So in order to facilitate these setbacks, measures must be implemented whereby there be zoning or special use permits whether zoning or special use permit remains to be discussed. The need for such measure is clear, what remains is to be seen as the political willpower to protect citizens of Bourbon counties against unchecked global corporations who come bearing gifts. Many have viewed zoning or special use permits as an infringement on property rights. This could not be further from the truth. These measures, if implemented, would protect all property owners from the companies who seek not to benefit the citizens of Bourbon County, but their shareholders. These measures would place all property owners on the same footing, not just the largest landowners who have the most to gain from the contracts from solar companies, but also the small properties located adjacently. An interesting note, during my research, and to the best of my ability, not a single contract holder has solar panels or BESS located within 1,500 feet of their primary residence. Much has been said in recent days about the monetary benefits of large industrial solar facilities. Numbers such as $8.8 million in new earnings for the county during construction, $1.6 million in new long-term earnings, and $94 million in property tax payment. It all sounds very enticing, but to me, this is merely corporate gaslighting. Numbers just regaled for the benefit of the uninformed to sway public sentiment, while the true nature of the message was to affect the success of a new generational venture. A quick search on the internet of how many companies went bankrupt in 2023 returned a number of 100. That's 100 companies that went out of business in 2023. A deep dive into the data revealed that they were not the primary solar companies, the ones who build the projects then later sell off the asset, but retain an equity share of the project. These companies were the second and third tier companies. They're the ones who buy the asset, operate it, and who will pay the property tax, which according to Kansas rules, comes in at the 10-year mark. Essentially, the $94.4 million tax windfall may or may not come to fruition. If past performance is indicative of future behaviors, I would not bet my property on the money. But then again, a decade is a long time. How many will be around by then or have forgotten today? But you know who will. Our children and our grandchildren. Many have voiced a desire to preserve the Kansas rural way of life. As somebody who has lived abroad and all over our great nation, I can attest to this. Bourbon County is a unique place filled with wonderful people who have various points of view, who are very good with one another. So what I'm asking is, please don't let foreign corporations change your lifestyle. You don't know what you have until you don't have it anymore. Solar's issues aside, I wish I could have raised my children here in Bourbon County, here in the Midwest where I was raised. But unfortunately, my military life took me elsewhere. For those in the gallery and those viewing this meeting on YouTube, regardless of how you feel about solar, pro or against, I ask that you become informed by asking questions, looking up information on the internet, educate yourself, and become engaged. Get the word out. You can make a difference. Lastly, before I relinquish my time, I have some questions. First question is, how much money did the county get from the windmill projects? Pilot money. How much per year and for how many years? And of that money, how much of that went to the Unified School District? That's all I have, sir. Thank you.
I can answer it if you'd like.
Please.
I believe I'm gonna be close.
Sure.
399,000 a year for, I think, 10 years. 200,000 went on salaries and roughly 200,000 went to lower property tax. Is that right, Clifton?
Pretty close.
Pretty close.
So how much went to Unified?
Pardon?
So
None
none
of it.
of it went to Unified School District?
Or 234, either one.
Okay. All right, I meant it all as a
Yeah.
whole, so, all right,
And we're in the process, hopefully changing that.
okay.
Because I believe they should get some money for school, all schools.
I understand that.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, we have 2 minutes for our wonderful state call. Matthew Quick, are you here, sir?
In a couple minutes.
Got 2 minutes. You can take the same punishment we're gonna take. He's a nice guy. He's a nice guy, but it's a long,
It's gonna be really, really boring.
he's probably listening, so
He knows.
he knows.
Yeah.
Kind of explain to them that this is, we do it every year.
Yeah,
It's-
this is a call we're gonna get from Property Valuation Division. Basically, we were not in compliance again this year, and I'll tell you, it is not because our values are too high. What it is our residential has come back to where we're not in the compliance rate that they have. So they have to do a call with our commissioners explaining it. Mike Bowman from Property Valuation Division will be calling in to just go over everything. It's gonna be really, really boring. It's gonna go through everything.
You don't understand what boring is till you listen to this. He's a great guy. but-
Oh, yeah, Mike's great, and he hates having to do this, but it's part of it.
And we hate for him to have to do this too, so.
Do we call him, or is he calling
I
us?
think he'll call us.
Yes, he's gonna call in.
Call into that.
If you have problems, still call me on my cell phone.
Okay. I'll give you a little example. I wrote these down today. These are 10 sales that I have on my desk right now. Appraised value, 159,650, brought 205,000. Appraised value, 544,
Matt,
530.
can you speak so they can
Oh,
hear you?
yeah, sorry. Appraised value, $544,530. It brought $855,000.
Press the green phone button.
You there, Mike?
Yes, I am.
Yep, this is Matt.
Okay,
And I've got our 3 commissioners here, and they're ready for you whenever you are.
okay. Well, I was hoping I'd get through, so
Good
I
evening.
told myself, last 15 minutes, It's good evening. I'm so used to saying good morning. I'm used to these being done in the morning, not in the evening. So good evening, everyone.
Good evening, sir.
My name is Mike Dahlman. I'm a property manager here with Property Valuation up here in Topeka with PVD. The reason for the phone call, hopefully you should have received some handouts. One of those handouts, basically this is going to be a repeat information that you probably already heard from me or from Matt before, but first, the reason we do this is driven by statute. That's that 79-1404B that basically says that we, have a discussion with the county commissioners for any counties that are deemed out of substantial compliance for the prior year. We basically cover three things. One is the statistical, or our state ratio. The other thing is the procedural. They refer to it as an audit in the statute, but I just call it a procedural review. And then the last thing we just touch on briefly is the appeals. And basically the appeals, all we're doing there is comparing the information that the county has entered into Orion to what we have for the statewide counts. So that's the reason for the phone call. Another attachment that you got that I don't really necessarily I really don't go into unless there's questions. There's 2 pages that on the top of the first page, it's called Mass Appraisal. And it's just information on how we develop the median and the COD. Those are the 2 statistics that we use as part of the substantial compliance review that we do. And so that's just information for your, for you. If you have questions, I'll answer them. But otherwise, my main focus tonight is on the scorecard, which is another 2 pages that kind of look like a spreadsheet, or basically the spreadsheet, kind of in a Word format. At the top of it, it will say Bourbon County 2024 Compliance Review. And so substantial compliance basically is made up of 2 parts. There's the statistical ratio portion of it, that is half of the score, and then there's the procedural review, which is the other half. And so most counties, the total score available is 100. And to be in substantial compliance, you have to have a 75 or above. And the reason I say most counties is because what we decided this year on, it's never been an issue with residential, it's always on commercial. There is a lot of smaller counties that do not have enough commercial sales that take place. So we, in the past, we always use older sales for the study. This year we decided we were going to stop doing that practice, and if there wasn't enough sales, we just didn't produce any statistics. So then that would have dropped the possible score down to 75 instead of 100. But here in the county had enough sales for both residential and commercial. So statistics were done on both of them. At the top of that page, you'll see a deal where it says subclass weighting. So for the ratio, we look at 2 classifications of property. We look at residential and commercial only. We do not include any ag, vacant lands, exempt, any other classifications other than residential and commercial. We want to weight these based off of the total value that each one carries in the county. So what we do is we figure up the appraised value for each of those classifications, come up with the total, and you can see there The total was $587,334,000 and change. Okay, so looking at the percent of total, you can see that 83% of that value is coming from the residential, that $488 million, and 17% is coming from the commercial value of the $98.5 million. And you'll see down below where these two numbers, this 83 and 17, come into play in our weighting process. So that then takes us down to the actual statistical performance numbers. Again, residential and commercial, we calculate a median ratio for both residential and commercial, and we calculate a COD, or some people refer to it as a uniformity statistic, for both residential and commercial. So on the residential, for both of them, doesn't matter whether it's residential or commercial, for the median ratio to be within substantial compliance, you have to have a score between 90 and 110. And that's, again, for both of them, whether it's residential or commercial. And then for the COD, you have to have a score that is below 20.0. And again, residential or commercial. So when you're looking at these numbers on this spreadsheet, you'll see the first column is that says ratio study. What I refer to it as the actual number. That's the actual median ratio and the actual COD calculated for each of those based off of the data that we used. We had 149 sales that we used for residential, and we had 7 sales that we used for commercial. The next set of numbers is what we refer to as the confidence range. This is what we really, this about 2 years, this is our second year, I think we changed this a couple of years ago, where before we always took into account the actual number, we decided just to base our statistics or our in-out based off of this confidence range. What the confidence range does, it's a formula that basically allows for some inaccuracy to the data. We know that the data set is never going to be perfect, and so this is a formula-driven range that comes up to allow for some accuracy in the data. And so it develops a range of what we feel, statistically, how we feel confident that the values are going to fall within this range. And so you can see, like the median for residential ratio is 69.7 to the 79.5. Both of those numbers are still below 90, so it's considered out of substantial compliance. The COD for residential, the range was 22.2 to 30.3. Again, both numbers being above 20, so that's considered out of substantial compliance. We dropped down to the commercial. The median was 39.0 to 80.0, still below the 90, so it's considered out again. And then if you look at the commercial COD, now its low end is 18.5 to the 98.5, the 18.5 being below 20, so we consider that, even though the actual is 40, we consider this being in compliance because of the confidence range that we, statistically developed. We then go over to the next column. You see that points allocated for each line item is 25. That's the original point assignment. But then we take that weighting assignment. That's where that 83 and 17 from up above comes from. So we take 83% of the 25 for the residential, that comes up to 20.8 for each one, and we take 17% of the 25 for the commercial, that comes up to the 4.3 for each category there. So since the county was out on the residential median and the COD and the commercial COD, there was no points. The points were possible, but the county did not receive any points, so they get the 0. On the commercial COD, since it was in the county, the points possible was the 4.3, and they received the 4.3 points. And so out of 50 points, you know, the county gets 4.3. And so you can see, you know, basically right here, no matter the rest of the scorecard, the county's going to be out of substantial compliance because they need a score of 75 out of 100. And, you know, when you lose, you know, I tell counties, whenever the residential, and this hasn't been much of an issue until COVID hit, whenever the residential median and the COD, when they're both out, you're going to be out of substantial compliance because it's such a, the weight of it is so heavy because every county, especially the small counties, most of your value is coming from residential. And you can see it here, 83% of their values residential out of these two classifications. So it carries a heavy weight assignment. And so when they're out, that's a huge impact on the final score. So does anybody have any questions on the statistical portion of it?
Nope.
Again, 149 sales residential, 7 for commercial. It's not uncommon to see commercial out of compliance just because of the low number of sales, you know, 7. But on residential, you know, we've got 10 counties that were out of compliance this year. Every one of them is because of residential statistics. You know, what has happened, and I'm sure everybody is aware of it down there, you know, and I hate saying this because I repeat myself every year, but ever since COVID, the residential market has increased dramatically in most counties. And what is basically happens is, you know, we tell counties 90 to 110. That's what you're shooting for. In reality, counties want to be between 90 and 100. You never want to be over 100%. I mean, you're just asking for trouble if you're going to appraise values for more than they're worth. So, you know, and with saying that, 90 to 110, you know, most counties like to be on the lower end of that range, you know, the 90 to 95. And prior to COVID, that literally wasn't an issue. I mean, they could stay within that range because values may increase 2-3% a year, maybe a little more on average, but not, or sometimes no change. Ever since COVID, a lot of counties are dealing with, I'm going to say probably a 20% average increase of appraised values or, you know, market values. And, you know, the county appraiser, they put the county appraiser in a tough spot. Do they raise values 20%, 30%, you know, whatever it takes to maintain that market value? Some county appraisers are hesitant to do it for various reasons. You know, I talked to one county today, the county appraiser, and, you know, they were confident the market was going to come down. And so they're just waiting it out. Well, you know, we're 4 years, you know, we're 2-3 years past COVID and the market isn't showing any indication. Maybe the number of sales, property selling has slowed down, but values are still staying strong. And so now some of the counties that were kind of holding in that lower end are now trying to play catch up. And, you know, it's one of those deals, once you get behind, unless you really want to bite the bullet, and I, you know, personally never recommend people do that, but, you know, we had a county last year that published a 40% increase of values. I would never do something like that personally, but to catch up, sometimes that's what, you know, it takes. And, you know, but that's a decision the county is made at the county level. PVD is not going to tell a county they have to raise values. no matter how far, how low or, or decrease values, no matter how low or how high, the values are the county's values. That's between the county appraiser and the county commission on how they want to, proceed with, do you want to catch up to try to get, the ratios in more compliance in the 90 to 100 range, or, are you going to ride it out and see if the market's going to come down? Again, that's a county decision. We don't make that decision for the county. So any questions with the ratio, or, with how that's arrived at?
No, I don't have any. Gentlemen?
They're good.
Okay. So then the last part of the scorecard is based off of procedures. There's about, I don't know, I never have actually ever counted them. There's about 10 or 12, what I refer to as phases, throughout the year that the county appraiser must complete. Some of them are fairly simple phases, and some of them are a little more complicated and more time consuming. And so the way the procedural portion works, you will see, there's different phases like A, B, C, D, E, and F, like on here on the first page. And then within each one of those sections, there's usually some separate line items that kind of make up what is entailed to get the points. There's a more detailed list. You should also have a 5-page attachment that at the top of it, it's called Procedural Compliance Review Checklist. And that checklist is what corresponds to these procedural points that I'm getting ready to talk about. And it's a little more, the checklist is a little more detailed. And it also, and I'll talk about that here in a second, whenever a county doesn't receive a point for something, the points, it'll give a description in that checklist of why they did not receive the points for that. So starting at the top there, scope of work. These are just, the scope of work is an annual report that they have to submit in April. The county, they met that requirement. The quarterly reports, there's 4 quarters throughout the year. We kind of look, for procedural, we kind of go from a July 1 to July 1 date kind of time frame. The ratio is based on a January 1 to December 31 time frame. So the sales, and this is another thing I need to mention, I always forget to mention, but the sales, that ratio is based off of the values that were established as of January 1, 2023, and the sales that took place in 2023. And so it does put the county appraiser in kind of a, it ties their hands a little bit because, they don't really know what the market's going to do in 2020, like this year. So this year's ratio is going to be based off the values that they just certified this past July and based on the sales that take place this year. And you sometimes have a general idea what the market's going to do, but not always. And so that can impact, what happens with that ratio study. If you think the market's going to increase 10% and all of a sudden it increases 20%, well, guess what? You're 10% behind. If you think the market's going to level out and be stagnant and you don't increase values and all of a sudden it jumps up 20%, well, now you're 20% behind. So it puts the county appraiser's office somewhat at a disadvantage, but that's, it's how the system is set up, and that's why we as PVD don't get into telling the county, what they have to do on a value basis. So back on the procedural part, so the sales file, there's more to it than just one line, but they did everything, so they got the 4 points. Parcel maintenance and the QC, it's, you know, the reinspection for the year, they did everything there, they got the points. Now, if you look at land valuation, they did not receive the 2 points. And this is where, if you flip over to that procedural checklist, and on page, let's see, on top of page 2, the land valuation, you know, it has the 4 items listed, and you see the no. And then in the comments section, that'll tell you the reason for the no. And here it says no analysis was submitted to support Acre Model 2. And so part of the land analysis is the county needs to make sure they submit all their analysis for every model that they develop in Orion. And in reality, you know, I don't know that if I maybe seen this before, if that's all the reason, I probably would have not made it a no. But in reality, with the score, with it being out on racial, it really doesn't have any impact. It's just a good reminder for the county to make sure, or for the appraiser's office to make sure to submit all their analysis for every model.
I'm pretty sure I don't use that one either. I can get the numbers got circulated out next time.
And it's, you know, it's easy. It's an easy oversight. So it's one of those things. If I'm concerned about it, I'll let you know. But you know, I'm not concerned about something like that. It's an easy oversight. So the rest of the land, everything was fine. Construction multipliers, everything was fine. We jumped down to depreciation. This includes residential, manufactured home, and commercial. There is a couple items here where the county did not get the points. You can see on commercial depreciation, and then the last one was non-building occupancies. Again, if you flip over to that procedural checklist, and that's going to be probably on page 3, top of page 3. And so you can see the comments. So there it tells you kind of what we had discovered that the county had done wrong. And basically 2 things there is, and this is something, this isn't an uncommon thing. We see some, and this is the problem with commercial. Counties don't have a lot of commercial data to work with. And so sometimes they will try to use the same sale in multiple depreciation tables. And that is okay as long as the economic lives and everything are the same, but a lot of times they're not. And so when that's the case, they can't use the same sale in multiple analysis. So that's one of the issues there. And then the other one, it talks about making sure everything's recosted. Again, this is another common thing that we see with counties, that they sometimes forget to recost everything that they're using in the analysis. Basically, it's older sales. It really has no impact in the final results, but it's just something that is required to be done, so it's something that we make sure the counties do. On the component codes, 162, 163, basically, that's a component code, and this is very confusing, and again, it's something that all counties deal with. So Orion is set up to use Marshall and Swift for the cost tables. Everything in Orion for cost with Marshall and Swift is based off of the construction type, like pole shed, fire-resistant walls, metal, steel. You know, there's about I'm gonna say 6, 7, 8 codes, I never can remember. That drives the construction cost on all components except 162 and 163s. And the 162, 163s, what that code actually controls is what depreciation table it's going to use and not what cost table. And data collectors, field appraisers that go out, and they get in their, they kind of get in the routine of, okay, this is say a Morton building, for example. It's, we usually refer to it as a pole shed. It's wood frame poles. And so we classify it like a P for pole. But in 162, 163, that P does not represent pole. It represents the table. Very confusing. And it's just something we're going to do from PVD standpoint this year is to try help remind counties when they're getting done with their 17% and when they're getting ready to start setting their final values, is to make sure there is a couple reports that we run that flush these out, and we're going to try to remind the counties to make sure to run those reports and get that stuff, try to catch it before it becomes an issue. So that's something that, like I said, that's something we're going to concentrate on this year and try to help the counties with. So again, I'm not concerned with either one of those. It's no points. I mean, it makes it look bad, but in reality, it's those are a couple of simple corrections that the appraiser's office can make. Over on the second page, income approach, I'm not sure if Matt actually uses this. Basically, a lot of smaller counties don't, because they don't have, and this confuses a lot of people when they hear income approach. They think, legislators are probably the worst about it. They think that we're talking about business income, how much the business is making, and that's not what it's about. It's about rental income. So in other words, in a lot of smaller counties are mom and pop operations. The people that own the building, they own the business. They're not renting the building out. This is for income based on the building, not on the business. And, many warehouses are a good example of a income producing property based off of the building. But most counties, we do give them a way to opt out of that if they need to. But the county received all the points for that. Comp sales, the county received the points. Final review, county received everything. So overall, up to that point, you can see there was 42 points procedurally possible. They received 37. The next thing is ag use. Counties met all the requirements there. And we also have mapping in there, which the county met the requirements. So procedurally wise, they got 45 out of 50. So procedurals, for the most part, other than a couple minor corrections that need to be made, things are fine procedural. It's just a matter of getting under control with what the market's doing, for statistics. Because you can see there the subtotal, the statistics of the 50 out of 40, or 4.3 out of 50. There's another 6 items there, 6 or 7 that falls under the statutory items. We don't give points to the county for doing this because these are statutorily required, but we will deduct points, and they can each can be a -5 deduction. And you can see the one there at the bottom, the prescribed guides, valuation guides. The county had a deduction there. And again, if you flip over to the procedural checklist, on page, probably, where's it at? On the bottom of page 5, The reason was on affordable housing. It says affordable housing worksheets are required to be submitted where documentation supporting the value is required. So just kind of briefly on the valuation guides, if you're not aware. So PVD provides valuation guides for grain elevators, feedlots, affordable housing, and then there's personal property guides. There's one or two guides that are provided for personal property valuation. With the grain elevator work guide and the feedlot guide and the affordable housing guide, each one of them has a worksheet that needs to be or should be completed. They either need to complete the worksheet or they need to document how the value was arrived at that they used for the final value of those properties. Affordable housing is another one of those that's somewhat of an issue statewide. It is a actual income approach that is used. That's how the worksheet is developed, because it's based off rents that the affordable housing properties get for their units, minus expenses and things like that. A lot of property owners, whether it's affordable, no matter what, a lot of commercial property owners do not like providing that information. They're not required to provide that information. In some states, for example, I've heard in Iowa, in order to maintain your affordable housing kind of exemption or status, you are mandatorily required to provide that income and expense data to the state. That's not something that we do here in Kansas. It's totally up to the property owner. Again, a lot of them don't like to provide it, so then the county's kind of stuck with, okay, what do I do? They're not giving me the information. How do I value it? There's two ways you can go about it. Within the worksheet, we have what we refer to as default data. It's basically data based off of a publication that is put together by the housing authority in the state of Kansas. It may or may not reflect what the actual rents are in the county, but that's something if the homeowner or the property owner doesn't want to provide, well, then that's something the county needs to look at and at least go through the steps to see what value that's going to produce using that default data. If it doesn't produce a value that is something they want to use, then they need to go through the Orion, Marshall, and Swift cost system and base it off the cost, which is an allowable substitute. They just need to, tell us how they're going about that. They still are required to at least try to attempt the income approach using the default data. So that's the deal on affordable housing. Again, that it's something common that we see. There will be new, like for example, this year there's going to be new guides and new worksheets for all of those properties. So that's something that the appraiser's office will be receiving here probably within the next month. Hopefully, that's the plan. So at the bottom, ultimately you can see total possible points was 100. The final score was 44.3. And so the county is deemed out of substantial compliance at that point. And ultimately, as we've seen through the numbers as I've went through, it's the residential statistical information that's causing, the issue. I did look. You should have received. I didn't send it out with this because I don't normally talk about it that much, but I have this year because counties have asked me, well, what do we need to do, or how are things proceeding? You should have got a mid-year, what we call a mid-year ratio report. And that came out probably, you should have received it around, 1st of August or so, or mid-August maybe. And the county, we only had statistics for residential. We didn't have enough commercial sales at that point. So the median ratio is still fairly low, both the actual and the confidence range, but the COD is much better. Currently, they're both in the actual number and the confidence intervals. So the uniformity is much better currently. You know, it can change, a lot can change in the next 6 months, but, you know, uniformly, you know, those values are much better. It's just a matter that overall the county, you know, is still on the low side in regards to, you know, the market value. So the only other thing I had is the appeal sheet that I included. And it's just a one-page sheet. And there's 3 years worth of data, and I'm only going to talk about the most current year because it's basically a repeat. So we look at looking at commercial and residential. We look at the total number of parcels, the total number of appeals, and then we look at the total number of appeals adjusted, and we come up with the 2 different percentages. So you can see on commercial, the statewide average in 24 was little over 7%. Of properties appealed. In the county, it was just over 2.5%. On the number adjusted, the statewide average was a little over 20%, and in the county, there was just over 90% receiving an adjustment. On the residential, you can see the statewide average is just over 2% for number of appeals. The county was under 1%, and for adjustments, the statewide average is just under 50%, and the county was just over 73%. So I don't see, you look at the years above, everything pretty consistent. The concern there from the legislators back when they implemented this statute is that people were complaining that they weren't getting any type of relief in the informal appeal process. And, these numbers show differently. You can see that county, taxpayers that do appeal are seeing adjustments. The one thing I caution on those numbers, that information statewide is based off of what each county enters into their Orion system for appeals. Some counties are better than others when it comes to entering their appeal data. So I don't get too excited if it looks like you're adjusting more or less than what the statewide average is because, like I say, I had one county say that basically does huge hearing tracking. Even though it's statutory required, they handle theirs a different way. So, and again, something like that, it's something that we, from PBD, we have the authority to make them do it, but, currently, this appraiser is getting ready to retire, so we're just like, okay, let's just let the person retire and we'll deal with it, moving forward. So, anyway, do you guys have any questions on any information I talked about?
Nope, thank you very much.
No, sir. Nope.
All right, well, I appreciate you giving me the time, and everybody have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Did I hang up?
I heard somebody snoring out there. I don't know who it was,
The
but
biggest thing to take out of that is what he said on our ratio. We're supposed to be, when the place sells, we're supposed to be at 100%. supposed to be marketed for this, customer tax zone. They allow us to be 10% lower at the other of what it sells for is what we got it valued at. You can see we're at 75, we're over 100 on not doing things right. I don't want to be charging anybody more than what the place is worth. So you can see we're at 75, we're low, we're way low from what it was. And then I started to read before this list of sales that are on my desk now where I got a place 544,000 is what we have it appraised at, about 855. 28,300 brought 57,000, 75,780 brought 115,000, 251,000 brought 395. So that's what I see constantly every day. I get excited when I look at 10% on a sale because it just never happens anymore. So I try to keep everything down, trying to keep everybody's stuff from shooting up. I live here too. I don't want everybody's taxes to go up. And these guys are the same way, so that's basically what that call was about.
What I heard the solution is you need to be better.
Yeah, no, I wish I was close to that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, department updates. Thank you, Matthew, quick, thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, man.
Public Works. Good evening, Eric.
I have one thing for you tonight. We have a contractor wanting to put in apply for a utility permit on 205th, about 205th and Osage. There's one cell phone tower there. They're wanting to run a line to the other cell phone tower that was just built. They filled out all their paperwork. Everything is complete along with the permit check. I have signed. If you so choose to sign, then I'll get it back to them so they can get it installed.
That's gravel by then, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. And they're wanting to go up next to the fence.
So do we make a motion for this? or-
I believe so.
Okay, I guess all three of us have to sign it.
Yes.
Okay, make a motion to sign this permit for, let's see, it's Kevin Sargent of ABD Companies on behalf of MCI out of Pacific, Missouri. It's a conduit fiber and handholds, putting in a nominal size 1 1/4 PVC. Make a motion that we sign this and allow
Can I
them.
say it real quick?
Yeah.
I'm not saying no, I just.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Hang on.
Gravel they're just cutting, aren't they? Not boring.
They're just cutting across the gravel? Yeah, that's a gravel road.
They're just staying in our right of way.
They're not even in the, they're not in the
Oh, so
road,
they're
it's
not
just in
even-
the
I
ditch.
think one drive I saw.
They're just staying in the ditch one driveway?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'll second it. We're good.
Okay.
I guess I should have signed it.
Got a motion, second, any further
Send it
discussion?
back to you.
Yeah,
All in favor?
Aye.
Need you to sign it, we'll have it.
yeah, mine totally.
That it, Eric? So you come back in the executive session, and we're gonna talk about Tom Square in just a little bit, so. Okay, county clerk.
Things. Susan asked me to hand out that list of possible dates to do budget amendments in December. And then October 14th is Columbus Day. The courthouse will be closed, just wanting to see if you wanted to have a meeting that night.
I'm gone the 21st, so we might wanna think about the 14th, but that's up to you two. We won't have any staff people here or anything like that, but I'm out of state the 21st, so. We can have a meeting the 15th on Tuesday.
I can't do.
You can't do that?
Yeah, I
Okay.
can't do,
So-
unless we did it in the morning.
Okay,
I mean, we can do it in the morning, I don't care.
want to have it in the morning of the 15th, Jennifer, that work for you? That work for you?
Yeah,
Brandon?
that works.
Yep, that works for me.
What
Okay.
time,
What
Brandon?
time?
If it's a normal meeting, 9 o'clock's probably plenty.
Okay.
I mean, if we can do
Let's
it
do
9
it
o'clock
October,
for you guys.
October 15th at 9 o'clock.
Okay, perfect. The next thing I have, we are gearing up for the 2024 general election. I just have some important dates. So the last day to register to vote or update your voter information is going to be Tuesday, October 15th. So anybody that is going to be 18 on or before the general election day, so November 5th, you can go ahead and fill out your voter registration card, get that to us before Tuesday, October 15th. We'll put you in a suspense status, and then when your birthday rolls around, you'll be a registered voter. Anybody who's wanting to do a write-in campaign needs to come see us. There is a form, an affidavit of write-in that is due October 14th. So we are going to be closed. We do have a drop box outside, or you can email it to us. Early voting begins on October 21st here at the courthouse. We are going to have 2 weeks of early voting. We'll be open Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 4:30. And then on those Saturdays, we will be open 8 to noon. The day before Election Day, so the 4th, will be open 8:30 to noon. And then 7 to 7 at your normal polling place on Election Day. Anybody who needs a mail-in ballot, we've had a lot of questions from parents with college kids. We have those. They are available online at the Secretary of State's office. They are available online on our website as well. And we need those. The last day is for October 29th. But given that the mail, please get those in as soon as possible. We will start mailing out ballots on October 16th. I believe that is all I have for tonight.
You need a decision on this tonight, or?
No,
Okay.
no, that was just informational
Okay.
so that
Very
you know
good.
what we're looking at.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So the first day of early voting is the 21st?
October 21st.
Eric Bailey. How much time you need?
Let's go 7.
7 minutes?
Yep.
3 commissioners and you?
So, yes.
Okay.
Make a motion to go in executive session, KSA 75-4319B1, to discuss personal matters of individual non-elected personnel to protect their privacy. Be 3 commissioners. Eric Bailey be for 7 minutes. We will return at, looks like, 6:40.
I second it.
Motion second. Any further discussion? All in favor, aye, please. Aye. Okay.
Make a motion to go back to normal session, no action.
Second.
Got a motion second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thomas Quarry, discussion. We received a notification from the Thomas family wanting us to terminate the lease on their quarry down by Hydeville, and that is their choice. They have to give us 90-day notice, and this notice is a 90-day notice for us to leave their property and get all of our equipment out of there. He says it just hasn't been as beneficial as the Thomas family thought it might be. So this is official notification that we are leaving Thomas Quarry, 90-day notice. Any question, guys?
But
I hate it too, 'cause it's good quarry.
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. What's it gonna do for our public works department and all that?
Well,
Heard it.
it's gonna hurt because it's really, we quit drilling down there about 35 feet and we're still hitting rock, so we didn't need to go any farther.
And it's good rock.
It's good rock. And we drilled 1, 2, 3 other sites before we found that one, so it's gonna be difficult to replace it, but by our contract, they can cancel. So, anyway, that's it.
Speaking of that, I mean, a thought. I mean, we own 300 and some acres, since we're talking about, I mean, replacing that quarry. We own 300 and some, is it 300 acres at Elm Creek? I'd have to look it up.
Something like that, I think, yeah.
So, I mean, because we're losing this quarry, obviously we know there's lots of rock there. This would eliminate this problem in the future if we drilled on land we already own. And it wouldn't affect the lake at all, and that would provide some more income to maybe fix the dam in the future.
Possible ideal.
I mean, make it, I mean, so I think we should give Eric permission to core it to see what's there, be my recommendation. Because since we're losing this quarry.
Any comments on that, Eric? I know it's real shelly out there. I don't know.
Well, that's why we core it and see what's there.
I can tell you this is a pain for us, losing another quarry. We've lost 2 really good ones. So if we could find somewhere that we own that we didn't have to worry about, once we got the overburden cleared off and once we were set up to blast and crush and what have you, being asked to leave, it would be very beneficial for our public works, for our county, if we had our own land. So I don't know anything on shell out there. That's something I think we'd have to drill and see what's there. If you would like for me to do that, I can make a phone call and do that.
Well, I think it's a worthy ideal. Just looking and observing the rock around there, I'm not sure it's very good rock.
That's what
our engineer can tell you that.
Yep.
Just the shale and how it's brittle in some places, but that don't mean over in one area it's not better, over here it's not better. I don't know.
Right. And I don't, has it ever been drilled out there before that you know of?
Not that I know
Not
of.
that you know of, okay.
So.
It may be worth looking into.
Doing a core, and if you can get away from the water and see what's there. Maybe we do own 360 some acres there or whatever.
I know you have several acres that are.
I know if you have to start hauling rock from our black quarry to the southern part of the county.
It's going to get expensive on
It's going to
fuel.
really run your fuel cost up.
Yes. So
I don't have a problem with you coring it.
you're getting a little bit of money out of hay fee there at Elm Creek, but not
Yeah.
not that
We've
much.
got to spend some building money on them buildings.
Absolutely.
They have roofs, they have.
Absolutely.
We talked about that.
Yep.
A couple of months ago. So.
Yeah. So
Any thoughts, Brandon?
I don't see why we don't look into it, see if it'll make good rock. I mean, I don't know where the land is that we own.
It's just all around.
It's all the way
Just all
around.
around the lake.
Yeah.
I know people love that lake, so if we go to jacking with it, they're gonna be pissed. But
It's,
Well,
yeah, but the
it's-
water's still there. I mean, they can still put a boat in.
We ought to be able to go far enough south not to bother.
I would
Yeah.
think you
so,
could
yeah, I
go,
think if we can do it without messing with the lake and maybe, yeah, and the wildlife and I don't have a problem cornering it and finding out if it's even worth messing with. I mean, I don't have a problem with that. That's, you know,
I'll make a
you get too
motion.
close to that lake and people are gonna hang you. So,
yeah, I
I
don't
mean,
think
as far as
they're
wildlife
close.
goes, I mean, we have a quarry and there's deer go through it while they're blasting.
Yeah,
So,
they get used to it and they'll still track it.
so I make a motion to allow Eric to core out on the property that we own out by Elm Creek Lake to see if the rock's any good.
Yeah, I'll second that.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you, Eric.
Thanks.
Okay. Solar panel setback discussion. This is something we worked into, we established a committee several months ago, got a report back from the committee. It's time to get the commissioners open up this discussion between us. You know, I've heard 4,000 feet. I had to write it all down. I've heard 2,600 feet. I've heard 1,500 feet, and I've heard 600 feet, and I've heard 300 feet. So I've heard just about every setback we could imagine. So it's time for us to decide, and as we move forward, please keep in mind, whatever we decide today is we can only ask the solar panel people to cooperate. We cannot make them today do this. Our conversation with them, they want to be very cooperative. But far as us issuing an ultimatum, we don't have that authority. And I asked Justin to be here to explain that to him, but he's got something pretty sick too today, so he went home. So anyway, this opened up the commissioners. I think you, last 2 weeks ago, you said 600 feet?
600 meters.
600 meters?
Mm-hmm, it's 1,800 feet, yep.
You said 300 feet. And you're saying 1,800 feet?
Mm-hmm.
The committee said 50,
Committee said 50 feet.
so.
So technically, if you had a house on each side of the mile, 1,800 feet one way and 1,800 the other way, you got 3,600 feet. You got approximately 1,400, 1,500 feet in the middle you could use, correct?
Yeah.
So the problem with doing, in my opinion, something like that is, number one, they don't have to. So they could come and say, we're doing 25 feet, you know, which is what one has agreed to do anyway, which we can talk about that in a second. But, I mean, we can ask for something ridiculous and get nothing. Or we can ask for something ridiculous and get 25 feet, in my opinion. Because if we ask for something like this, we're not going to get anything. I mean, they can say, whatever, we're going to do what we want. So I would say ask for something reasonable, but anyway.
Well,
And I think we need more than 50 feet.
I do too, around a residential, around a house. And again, I've said this before, we have to consider property rights of everybody involved. They have rights that wants panels. People across have some rights that don't want panels. My job is to represent all property owners by the Constitution of the United States, Constitution of the State of Kansas. And that's what I'm going to do. And I believe in my heart, it got me unelected, but you did me a favor, folks. Don't tread over it, so. And don't feel bad for me, because I'm going fishing. So anyway, I agree with what Clifton said. I've had 2 meetings with solar panel people, and they're not going to do 1,800 feet.
No.
They're not going to do it. So, like Clifton mentioned, we can go in and ask something reasonable, which I think, what Clifton said, 300 feet, that's a football field from a house. That's getting closer. But,
With some trees, plant some trees.
yeah, and some trees at that 300 feet. I mean, you're not going to be able to see it from the house. And it's going to give you some greenery. I believe now is the time that we can discuss it with a solar panel, because we have a good relationship with them. I know somebody said, wait till the next commission gets here. I don't think that will be beneficial at this time, the meetings I've had with them. But not saying I'm wrong, could be wrong. But they are willing to consider the 300 feet. The first contract, the next era, they are willing to rescind it and change that 25 feet or 50 feet, it's 25 feet to 300 feet. So they're willing to open up their contract to these setback requirements. But gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, 1,800 feet, they're not gonna do that. So, I mean, I know they're not, because you're taking out, let's say, well, we have some property owners in here, you're taking out 2/3 of their property revenue. So,
I mean, the World Health Organization says 1.2 miles, so,
yeah.
you know. Now, I don't know that I trust him.
I was gonna say, did you believe them on COVID? But now you believe them all of a sudden?
So, that's all I'm saying, I don't necessarily believe everything they say, but, you know.
Well, you can read a lot of different things out there, that's for sure. So we just gotta be something reasonable if we're going to sit down and talk to these folks about setbacks. Because again, now they're open to ideal, reasonable ideals.
I mean, again, we can't legally tell them, I mean, they could put them afoot.
Yeah, this is a request.
These are, you know, we'd have no power over what they do at all. So mine is I think 300 feet. I think that's fair.
With trees.
With some trees, you know, ask them to plant some trees so that people don't have to see them if there's around their house, and go from there. My understanding, the two that are actually coming, the closest house is 1,500 feet anyway. And Brandon, you met with them, you would know better than me what that is, but that's what I was told. And the one isn't. That's gonna affect somebody that's fairly close, isn't coming anyway. So this 45,000 deal, whatever y'all keep saying, is not. I mean, I certainly don't know that. I mean, I know of.
I was told 3,000 by the first one.
Maybe.
And the second one, 1,500 acres.
If that, and
Yeah, if that.
and is my understanding, and the other one's not coming anyway. And those two first ones, like, again, what I've told, I haven't seen the maps or anything, but aren't that close to any houses anyway. I don't know that, but that's what I was told.
One with 1,500 acres, I saw the map, I didn't see houses.
I didn't.
I mean, and there's a lot of trees around the perimeter of the land, and so.
And the other companies kind of disappeared, so.
Yeah. The other company.
Y'all scared them away, so you did your job.
The other company, third company has not made the proper applications at this time.
So.
And has till January to make their applications to the state probably.
South,
Something
SPP.
like that. But the third company at this time not even a player. So.
But anyway, 300 feet I think is fine, and that's what, I mean, because otherwise we can't, I mean, we can ask for a mile. I mean, it's not,
Arguing, Pete.
It's not,
We've been arguing over this for 4
it's not
months.
gonna do anything, so.
It's decision time.
But.
Please, I understand.
Anyway.
If everyone think we can have a healthy discussion, if these two, you don't want to open it up?
No, I don't want to be here all night. So, I mean, it's, 300.
Well, I do know one of them told me that I had a meeting with, that they can make 500 work.
There you go, that's better. They can make 500
They
work?
can make 500 feet work.
All right.
Then why don't they do it?
Which company was it?
The one I had a meeting with. I had a sit-down meeting with.
Well, that's more than I have, so, I mean, I have.
Hey, if Darrell likes 500 feet around the house, I don't have a
Well, I
problem
don't think
with
they
that.
liked it, but they said they could make it work.
They could make it work.
Then again, it's up to them.
It's up to them, yeah.
So-
We can ask for 500.
But,
Around a residence?
And visual barriers, I don't have a problem. The one thing I will say, everybody who's ever called or talked to me about any of it does not have a problem with visual barriers. None of them has a problem planting a couple rows of trees
no.
and putting a buffer in. Their concern was how big is the buffer? So that's, I mean, that's,
I don't know, first one will go for 500. I don't know
No.
that.
No. I
Don't
mean,
think
well,
so.
the fact of the matter is, there's no houses
So
around
we
it
have to have
anyway.
plan A and plan B if we're gonna sit down and talk to these folks.
well, I've never even talked to the first one that already has a contract. I've never talked to them.
Well,
so.
I have one meeting with them now, and I believe if we're reasonable, they will rescind that contract and include setbacks.
I mean, I'm kinda stuck at 500 feet, cause I know one of them said they could make that work, so, I mean, that's, and I'm thinking if they're doing a smaller project, we can make that work, then the bigger project should be able to make that work, I would think, but that's,
Talking about around the residence.
yes, around the residence, I don't, yeah.
Everything else is 50 feet, like the committee
Yeah,
said.
I don't,
What if there's not a house there yet?
I'm sorry, man, we can't open it up. I mean, like, we can't open it up. We've had so many terrible meetings over these. We've had some good meetings too, so. So her question is, if was this 50 feet now, then someone wants to build a house in the future, I think. That's her question is.
well, here's the problem, I can't protect you in the future, I can only protect you right now. I can do my job for right now, that's all I can do. And I get that you might wanna build a house someday, but and I get where they're coming from, they don't, you know, I do, but I can't say you have to be 300 feet from the neighbor's pasture because someday he's gonna build a house up against the fence. I mean, and it sucks, and it does suck, but I can't do that. I mean.
And we really can't do anything. I mean,
No,
that's
yeah, right now-
the
right
reality
now-
situation is
right
we can't do
now- right now we
anything,
can't
but
do
we can
anything other
ask.
than ask.
We can
I
ask.
mean, we can ask for a 500-foot setback from residents.
And what do you, well, no, what do you think about, our committee said 50 feet, why are we, and I got accused of not listening to our committee,
Yeah,
and I'm listening to our committee, they said 50
Yeah,
feet.
they said 50 feet.
Why did we have the committee?
I can tell you in 4 years, I've been yelled at and everything else and called all kinds of things for not doing committees. And then we do one and now we're not gonna listen to it. And I'm not going to listen to it because I don't agree with the 50 feet around a residence.
But-
Around the property line, that's fine. But, so,
Didn't the committee also vote to put zoning on the ballot?
Yes.
So we could listen to them, we can put zoning on the ballot, we can put it 50 feet till the zoning passes. I mean, or doesn't pass,
There's an election in April, you can do that in.
so that's what I'm saying, I mean, that's,
That doesn't affect what we're doing today.
I know.
okay,
Zero.
so these people want us to listen to the zoning, so they want us to listen to the 50 feet also. Is that what they just said? I've heard that rumble. So you want your cake and eat it too, apparently. So, you know, I mean,
If the public can't speak,
so,
refrain from addressing.
but anyway, make up some more stuff out there.
There's not enough time to put zoning on November ballot anyway.
No.
This is
I
October.
get it, I'm just.
You can do it in April real easy, so.
saying.
Have to be.
So,
I-
again, I'm 300, I say 300 feet, and what I would say, if you plan on building a house there, if it was me, I would call that landowner, and I would call that energy company, and, I think that we have, their telephone numbers. I mean, the solar panel company's telephone numbers, you know, and say, you know, we may put a house here someday, or we are going to put a house here someday. What can you do for me? You know, appeal to their humanity maybe. Anyway,
It's 300 and I got 500. We're gonna have to find somewhere in between. Because I'm probably gonna be the one that pick to go meet with these folks. And I gotta have a little bit of, I don't know what, I have visited 300, it's very agreeable that, I don't know what they're gonna say at 500, I really don't know. But,
Well, I guess split the difference and ask for 4. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, I'm not gonna come off my 5, he's not gonna come off his 3, so I guess as the chairman, you get to pick one in the middle.
400 feet, what I'm gonna pick from a resident, and all we can do is ask these companies, we cannot make them, please understand that. If they say, no, we'll do 300, it's gonna be 300.
If they I mean, unfortunately, if they say no, we're gonna do
If
10.
Yeah, they come back and said, we're gonna do 100, we have no, and I hope if you guys go forward in April, get to see that the people want zoning. The 9 out of 10 I've talked to doesn't want it, but I said there's some in this room. But keep in mind, folks, you're about 20 out of 14,000.
Yeah.
Keep in mind, please.
That's not true. We've.
So anyway, I would make a motion to allow Chairman Harris to meet with Nextera to renegotiate those setbacks
I'll second that he can renegotiate the setbacks
with Nextera.
Well,
'cause they
and
were
when doing that, I
20.
also want to talk to them a little bit about.
And about the donation agreement.
Donation
And I would
agreement.
add the donation agreement.
I'll second the donation agreement.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Okay, need an executive session for about
With-
3 commissioners, 7 minutes,
Okay.
non-elected personnel.
Okay, make a motion to go in executive session, KSA 75-4319B1, to discuss personnel matters of individual non-elected personnel to protect their privacy. Be 3 commissioners, be for 7 minutes. We return here at 7:09.
Got a motion?
Oh, I second it.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
every possible nuance of nuclear energy has been looked at, experimented, dissected, and ready. Well, somebody said that about the high school, because here's the thing about high school. They have solar panels on the roof, right? They don't have a gas.
Make a motion to resume normal session, no action.
Second it?
Got a motion, and a second, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye. Make a motion to add an executive session to the agenda. It will be, let's see, number 4.
Discuss data relating to financial affairs of trade secrets of corporation, partnership, trust, or individual priority shifts. Motion?
Yeah, I'll second it.
How much time you need?
I'll make
Oh,
that
I'm
in a
sorry.
second. This is just adding it to the
Okay.
agenda.
Got a motion, and a second, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion to go into executive session, KSA 75-4319B4, to discuss data relating to financial affairs or trade secrets of corporations, partnerships, trust, and individual proprietorships. It'll be for, 3 minutes. We return here at 7:13.
Second it.
Got a motion, and a second, any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Basically, what they basically said.
Started.
It's going, we're going to QA/QC.
Okay. Make a motion to back into regular session, no action.
Got Got a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Commission comments, please.
I don't have anything.
I don't know, I mean, be patient, I think we'll get some stuff figured out, and we'll keep working that way. And I'm trying, I researched more stuff than I ever thought I would in my life, so it is what it is, so.
Okay, I don't have anything. Motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Payroll and account payable, please.